You know, folks, we're still learning about Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk's assassin. He was a 22-year-old white kid from Utah, from a Trump-supporting family. His grandmother came out and said they were all MAGA, they were all Trump supporters, and she was very confused as to why her grandson would do something like this, because everything that I've read about him, he was an extremely quiet kid, and people really didn't know where he stood on things. It doesn't matter, though. MAGA will continue to double down on their lie that this kid was left-leaning, even though the Guardian went back and retracted statements that they made about an individual who said they knew Tyler Robinson and that he leaned to the left. They retracted that and put out this statement. This article was updated on September 12th to remove quotes after the verified source who attended high school with Tyler Robinson said after publication that they could not accurately remember the details of their relationship. That's not stopping MAGA, though, from continuing to go out there and say this kid was radical left. Jesse Waters is absolutely doubling down, quadrupling down on this because they are the ones that wants a war, and they're the ones that are saying it. I mean, it's not me saying it. That's what they're saying. We're over here denouncing political violence. We're over here saying we want to see an end to it. I said in a previous video, I'll be glad to shake your hand if you'll unclench your fist. But no matter what we say, we get labeled radical left, and this kid's going to be labeled radical left no matter what happens next. But one of the most interesting about faces that I've seen came from Nancy Mace, who went out there and said some transphobic remarks and was pushing the narrative that this was going to be a blue-haired trans kid when it all came out. And this is disturbing to watch, so I'll give you all a trigger warning up front. But this was Nancy Mace before she realized that it was a white kid. Take a look.
This shit ends. Like, enough is enough. And now I have to deal with real safety concerns. It sounds like the shooter was a tranny or pro-tranny. And just because I want to protect women, that I'm worried about getting murdered? Are you fucking kidding me? It's out of control, and enough is enough. And I'm going to double down on this. I'm going to be more vigilant than ever. I'm going to be louder than I've ever been until this shit stops.
Now, I want to drive home the point that at the time she's saying that, there's no evidence whatsoever to back up her claim. But she's putting that out there into the world, and she's stirring up all sorts of hatred, unnecessary hatred that will be heaped upon the trans community. But when she found out that it was a white kid, she did a complete about face. And if you go over to the dumpster fire that is X and look at her Twitter feed now she's saying, we know Charlie Kirk would want us to pray for such an evil and lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus Christ. Let me ask y'all a question. Do you really think that Nancy Mace would be saying the same thing if it had been the purple-haired trans kid that she hoped it was going to be? Do you think she would really be saying that we have to forgive the trans community? Do you think she would have ever said, hey, this is just one person, this doesn't represent all of the people? Do you think she would have ever said that? Why is it that forgiveness is only limited to white people? Because Charlie Kirk, and I notice a lot of people are getting into hot water for quoting him, but Charlie Kirk had nothing good to say about George Floyd. And Charlie Kirk never met George Floyd. I never met George Floyd. Most of us never met George Floyd. But they demonized him, they vilified him, they made him into a criminal, they created the narrative they wanted to create. And I never one time heard him say, we feel for his family or we feel for his anything, nothing. And I never heard him say we should forgive him. That forgiveness was never open to black people. That forgiveness was never open to trans people. That forgiveness is not open to immigrants coming across the border. And it's not even available to us on the left because we're the enemy from within. We're the ones that should be rooted out like vermin. But yet they want to sit and tell us it's on us to turn the temperature down. They're going to double down on this narrative no matter what we say, because it's about shutting us down and putting an end to our free speech. That's what they want. And Stephen Miller says the last message Charlie Kirk ever said to him was, shut people on the left down. And no, I'm not making this up. Take a look.
And let me tell you something I've not shared with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us. And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate, you want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile, because the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom, Sean.
Now, there's a lot of people out there who are trying to put this spin on it, that Charlie Kirk was just this dude that was going out there and expressing his opinions. They say that he was just someone who died for expressing his opinions, and that he was killed because people disagreed with him, and that he was a champion for free speech, and that he died for free speech. Well, if he died for free speech would be also disagreeing with him. Free speech would also be speaking out against him. Now, I don't take no joy out of Charlie Kirk's death, and I've not celebrated it, and I've not seen anyone that I know celebrating it, and I've not seen any left-leaning content creator or anyone like that celebrating. I've not seen any left-wing politicians celebrating. I condemn the people that are celebrating, but it's not against the law. I mean, if people wants to have a cookout and hire strippers to celebrate, that's not against the law. That's their business. It's free speech. And if you really do believe in freedom of speech, then you can't sit here and say you're going to criticize and shut down everyone who said something and bring RICO charges and accuse them of insurrection. He's saying it out loud. He's just going for it. And Pete Hegseth is saying to the military, if you said something against Charlie Kirk, you'll be punished for that. The people who fight to defend our Constitution and defend our freedoms are being told, you can't disagree with this dude. Now, just imagine if Joe Biden or someone in the administration of Joe Biden had came out and said, you know what, if you all make fun of Paul Pelosi and you keep sharing those memes of the hammer and the underwear, the whitey-tighties, if you keep sharing that, we're going to shut every one of you down. If you and imagine if they had imagine if they'd have let imagine if Joe Biden had had an influencer, and that's what Charlie Kirk was. He was an influencer. Imagine if they'd have had an influencer in the White House. It would be a completely different story. Imagine if Joe Biden had ordered the flags half-staff for an influencer, where we would be. This is truly one of the craziest things that we've ever lived through, but it's also exposed people more so than anything else I've ever seen. More so than Trump being elected the first time, the second time, January 6th, any of it. To me, the people that I'm seeing suddenly go to bat for Charlie Kirk, and the way that suddenly it's like you can't say a word against him. You could get away with getting online and saying stuff about Jesus right now that you couldn't say about Charlie Kirk. It's absolutely insane. But when you look at the statistics of the matter, no matter how Fox News tries to spin this, if you look at statistics and understand how statistics work, white supremacy is always leading in statistics on violence. And Jasmine Crockett brings that across in this clip.
And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within.
You know, my good friend and patron, Kim, said something that made so much sense. She said, we need to have a class where children learn about statistics, just a basic course in statistics and how statistics work. That would be very useful for our children growing up to understand how statistics works. That way, before you go on there and just throw your preconceived notions out into the world, you would have stats to back up what it is that you're saying or not back up what you're saying. Maga doesn't care about statistics. They don't care about the truth. They live in an alternate reality, and they're going to spin this narrative, and they're going to use this man's death as a reason to go after everyone that they disagree with and everyone that disagrees or disagreed with him. And the funny part is, I'm seeing people get heat for quoting Charlie Kirk. If you post Charlie Kirk's quotes, they get mad at you for saying it. And they're out there putting his picture next to Jesus and Martin Luther King. And Glenn Beck is saying, hey, don't call him a political activist. Call him a civil rights leader. Charlie Kirk himself said that Martin Luther King was a terrible person, didn't deserve a holiday, said there shouldn't be a Juneteenth, he was going to go to work, and also said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. They get mad at us for quoting what the guy said. It's truly one of the most insane things that I've ever seen, and when I say they're in an alternate reality, they absolutely are. But now this is going to be used as a way to weaponize the government against people who speak out against them. But however you feel about Charlie Kirk, you have freedom of speech to feel that way about him. And if you're simply sharing his quotes, how is that defamation if you're sharing quotes of stuff that he said and showing the reels of him saying it? We can just sit here all day long and show you reels of it. We're not making it up. We're not pulling it out of our ass. But Maga's pulling anything they can out of their ass to create their narrative because they want to declare war on the left. So to those of us on the left, all I can say is we can talk to her blue in the face and try to be a voice of reason, but the best thing we can do is just protect ourselves and look over our shoulder and take care of one another, because they have no intention of ever toning it down. Shout out to Thomas Massey. He's one of the few decent Republicans that told Trump he should tone it down, start toning down the rhetoric. But Trump doesn't, Stephen Miller doesn't, and none of them doesn't, and it's because at the end of the day, they're the ones that truly do hate freedom of speech. They say Charlie Kirk died for it, but then turn around and say we're going to shut down anyone who disagreed with him. Make that one make sense and take all the time you need.